Good evening and welcome to this Head Talk with myself, Ruth Benny from Top Schools. And I'm delighted to be joined this evening by Malvern College Hong Kong. Welcome Dr. Robin Lister, Headmaster, and Ms. Jacqueline McNalty, Principal. Good evening.
Good evening, good to see you.
Hello Ruth, good to see you.
Thank you for joining us. So we're excited to learn about the expansion of Malvern. So it's been several years now, and I'll leave you to actually explain the details of establishment in Hong Kong. And so there's some exciting developments coming. And so I'd like to ask Robin if you'd like to start off to give us some highlights of what those developments are.
I certainly will, and I think I'm going to take advantage of remove my mask for a few minutes. So good evening, everyone. Good to see you all. Just a little bit of background. I have been involved in Malvern family of schools for, goodness gracious, it's actually more than 25 years. So Malvern kind of it's in my blood. And I came over to Hong Kong, 4 years ago, a year before we actually started the school, in order to set things up. So my last few years have been very much involved in setting the Malvern scene here in Hong Kong from what I learned in the UK. But one thing that's really been occupying me and senior colleagues over the last weeks is trying to think about what actually identifies Malvern, the Malvern family of schools. And the trigger for this, we've just opened up a new school in Switzerland. And that gave us a trigger for thinking about how do we actually define what Malvern stands for? And what we came up with, and in some ways, I suppose it might come across as a bit of a PR exercise, but it isn't, because it really is an attempt to define what Malvern's been doing for the last umpteen years. So what we're referring to is what is intrinsic to the DNA of all Malvern schools, and what we've defined as our 5 centres of excellence. Now, I'm not going to talk about each of these, although I'm going to skim through 1 or 2, and then I might concentrate on one in particular. Malvern schools, I think, are really known for their pastoral care, number 1, and that's something personally I learned as a housemaster in Malvern, UK for 10 years. We are also concentrating on providing all children with what we term enhanced learning. So if a child develops some kind of skill or interest, we hope to be able to give them the ability and give them the opportunity to fulfill that, whatever it is. We are really also trying to put across that we are a global family. So when you join Malvern, you're not just coming to Malvern, Hong Kong, but you're joining a family that now expands schools in China. We've got a school in Cairo, and of course, our home base in the UK. But I'm going to spend a minute or two talking about one thing which I think is absolutely central to what Malvern is trying to do here in Hong Kong and elsewhere around the world. And that is what we've termed entrepreneurial education. Now, Ruth, if you can bear with me, I don't want to lecture, but I think it's very important to understand what this phrase entrepreneurial education means. It's often associated with the world of business, and it includes business, but it's much wider, much broader, and in fact more important than that. I think when I was a boy and I sat in school, we had knowledge thrown at us. We wrote it down, we understood it, we tried to understand it, and then we regurgitated it in an exam. I think Malvern is emphasizing that education has to move away from the transmission of knowledge. We've got to, okay, we do transmit knowledge, but I think more important than transmitting knowledge is transmitting and inculcating skills. And that's what entrepreneurial education is all about. That's what we're trying to do here in Hong Kong. It's what we're trying to do in other schools. Yeah. In a nutshell, what 2 more sentences, Ruth. I try not to lecture.
Go ahead.
But in a nutshell, entrepreneurial education, which, as I say, is something we're trying to emphasize so strongly, is trying to give children the skill set to be creative, to be analytical, to be problem solving, not just to regurgitate knowledge. And shall I just give you one example?
Please.
Just to bring this down to earth, because I don't want to sound too philosophical. One of the examples of entrepreneurial education would be something that we did with our children here last term. One of the units of inquiry involved looking at old people's homes. And so the children were looking at what it was like to live in an old people's home. And one of their projects was how they could help old people in their homes. So they set about in their discussion groups trying to come up with different ways of making an old person's life more easy. And they came up with mechanical things that they could make in order to help these older people open jars or get out of their seats. So they were given a problem and they were asked to demonstrate how they could solve a problem. That's what entrepreneurial education is all about. Okay, I'll stop talking. Ask me something.
That's a great introduction. We will revisit this because I know that, interestingly, entrepreneurial education is just a little bit of a twist on what we often hear in other schools, which is entrepreneurship or entrepreneur skills. And you also do it with very, very little children, which is interesting. I just want to revisit, Robin, if I may, the family of Malvern schools. And if you can just give us some, it's a really strong partnership. And I should probably put out the disclaimer here at this point. So, we met professionally, but my child was in your school. My eldest daughter went to Malvern, Hong Kong, and she's now in Malvern, UK. So just to put that out there, I, as a parent as well, I completely understand what you're saying. But just for a moment, then explain to us how it's all knitted together.
Well, Malvern actually was approached Malvern UK was approached some years ago to see whether we would be interested in opening a school in China. We'd never thought about this. But what resulted from those early discussions some years ago was we opened up a school in Qingdao. We then opened another one in Chengdu, which actually we've just got a brand new campus for. And following that, a decision was made that Hong Kong was the ideal place to set up a school teaching the IB, PYP, MYP, and DP, and it would be kind of the base for the Asian schools. However, watch this space. There's going to be one or two other schools opening up. As I say, we've just opened up a school in Switzerland, and we hope to give the children here in Hong Kong and in our other schools the chance to visit Switzerland, to visit the school in Malvern, UK. As I say, it's a global family, and so giving children the opportunities to have some exchange program and some teachers too. To be frank, I had hoped to start this off earlier, but COVID, as we all know, has put brakes on so many things, but we are very much working on building this exchange program. So we're a family of schools, global network, terribly important to who we are.
And you were in the UK when this idea began, and you saw it through and then moved to Hong Kong.
Yeah, I was part of the body that was given this proposal to look at, and I remember the long discussions we had, and we thought it was going to be a thrilling adventure, which it has turned out to be. And now here I am in Hong Kong leading a Malvern school here, and it's a terrific experience.
Yeah, and just Robin, just before we go to Jacqueline, just give us a synopsis of how has the first 3 years, how's it been going?
You want me to be honest?
Yes, of course, always.
Well, I mean, I think as a brand new school, I think starting up a brand new school from scratch is no easy thing. And to be frank, the first year was hard for me, for my teachers, and but once we had everyone on board, it went terribly, terribly well. We spent the first year putting policies, procedures, protocols in place, and it did take a while. I'll be honest, I was a little naive. I thought I could do it more quickly than actually I did. And it took a good year, if not 18 months, to settle the school. We started with 400 pupils. It's our third year now. We're up to around 800. Amazing. And we'll open up again in August, and we'll probably be about 950. So yeah, it's been absolutely an amazing experience. You would expect me to say that, but it happens to be true. Yes, there were times where it was jolly hard work, and we had hills to climb, but it's been tremendously successful.
And it's been really interesting for us to watch the growth, and it's going from strength to strength. So thank you. Shall we ask Jacqueline to...
Yeah, we will change places. We're doing social distancing, so I'll move out the way for a minute.
Okay.
Hello, Ruth. How are you? I'm going to take my mask off now. I'm socially distanced.
There you are. There you are. So, Jacqueline, as the principal, and you start with the very little children, could you just explain to us a little bit about you? And also, you've been in existence for longer than the college. You know, how's it been going, and how does it integrate with the plans for, you know, the whole of the school, all the way up to diploma?
Thank you, Ruth. Well, I have had the privilege of being with the Malvern family from 2016, so really my 6th year with the company. Absolutely loving the school. 2016, I joined from Singapore, where I was flying in to do the pre-operations and the setup. I had the privilege of working with the architect and the designer, and really it was such a privilege to start from the ground up with the Malvern mission, vision and values, which Dr. Lister has described so well. I think, you know, once or twice, or if you're lucky, 3 or 4 times in your lifetime, you get to open a school and pick the amazing team and develop those things. So as Robin said, lots of hard work, but a great privilege doing that. So we've opened Coronation Circle in 2017. Very lucky with the wonderful team around me and the wonderful parents and the beautiful pupils. We were actually full in our first year and a wait list. And luckily in 5 years on, that's continued. And again, I credit the great work of the team under the Malvern mission, vision and values. We're doing some incredible work with a bilingual approach. We follow the EYFS, which is an inquiry pedagogy, a great segue into the IB, which Malvern Hong Kong does so well. And also we offer Forest Beach School, and one of our centres of excellence in our DNA and centres of excellence is outdoor education. We're quite unique in Hong Kong, offering Forest Beach School in the preschool and also Prep 1 and Prep 2 at the college. So very, very wonderful experience for the children where they're practicing their skill set. You know, we want to, as Dr. Lister said, talk about entrepreneurial education. We know about critical thinking, collaboration, curiosity. All those 21st century learning skills are so important, as the World Economic Forum has highlighted. We're very proud to develop those at Forest Beach School, but also through our DNA and our centres of excellence. I was very privileged to open Malvern College Island West. It's coming to the end of our 2nd year. Can you believe it? Coronation Circle in Kowloon got so full. We were inundated with please open another preschool, and we did that. And we've actually jumped in quite a tricky year. We've jumped to 70% in our enrollment admissions, and we're just, again, a credit to the wonderful families, the beautiful pupils, and the wonderful team that's supported by Malvern College Hong Kong, as Dr. Lister has said as well.
So, Jacqueline, you've mentioned this, the DNA and the 5 centres of excellence. Now, we heard about entrepreneurial education briefly. I just want to understand, how does entrepreneurial education apply to 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds? But it does, right?
Oh, it's certainly so important. Just what we are talking about, the skill set. I mean, inquiry, curiosity, collaboration, that needs to start at 2. We need to be modelling, teaching, enhancing, facilitating these skill sets. And in our inquiry approach, because this approach is really learning by doing, which is a play-based approach. Children are practicing, and as Dr. Lister has said, it is academic and it is the world of work, and the children are practicing putting on a role-play restaurant or a vet or the doctor's surgery. They're looking at the cash register. They're writing receipts. I mean, all the linking to literacy and maths is there, but it's more than that. And we also look at social entrepreneurship, and we look at cultural entrepreneurship. As an international school, in the preschool we have 45 different nationalities. We really want to bring parents in. We're looking at different festivals, different cultures, stories, dance, songs, music, food, really stretching the children's understanding in that way. But social entrepreneurship is really important. It's about opportunities and problem solving, as Dr. Lister has said, and we really do need our pupils of Malvern to be the problem solvers of tomorrow. We know the world is getting quite complex, and they will need to be these problem solvers and innovative thinking. It's thinking out of the box. We really promoted the preschool design thinking. We use hub visible thinking routines. Even at 2, what do you see? What do you think? What do you wonder? Is a visible thinking routine from Harvard that we use with the 2-year-olds. So training the brain and the mind to think out of the box is so important. It was a wonderful example of social entrepreneurship with just before COVID, our K2 pupils were very interested and a little bit worried about rubbish. When they went to Forest Beach School, they could see rubbish coming out of the stormwater drain. They wanted to take action, which is a good example of student agency under this approach. And they thought about it. They wrote an action plan. They wrote to Hong Kong cleanup. They wrote their own letter and they joined in the cleanup with all the parents helping. And they had such they got such value from that. And that's a big thing about this approach, entrepreneurial education. It's about value, and the value can be social, it can be academic, it can be cultural, but the value comes back to the pupil, and that infuses their self-worth, their competence, their confidence, and it infuses all areas of academic learning, as the research shows. But more than that, the children didn't just do a beach cleanup. They came back to preschool, and with the design thinking scaffolding, they designed through the box construction and the atelier, because we're Reggio Emilia inspired, a rope basket weaving that they designed to put at the end of the tunnel, of the water tunnel, so they would design this net that would capture the rubbish coming out of the stormwater drain. So, I mean, no one really had talked about that. I know some countries have developed similar things, but this was such innovative thinking for the 4-year-olds to do. Problem solvers, taking action, critical thinking, design thinking, and creating social entrepreneurship, having a problem and designing a solution. I mean, that is the type of learners we want to enhance through our Malvern DNA and Centres of Excellence.
We have 4 other centres of excellence that we might not have time to cover all of them just now. Just on a note, the preschool has been in operation for 5 years. And so just tell us about the connection also between the preschool and the college.
Look, it's a very close family. We're very fortunate to have 64 K2s this year graduating up to Prep 1. Amazing opportunity for our pupils. Obviously, the K2 pupils are observed and in the preschool, which is very comforting for the pupils. The Prep 1 team get to know the pupils. They come on site to the preschool. We visit as part of our transition program. So a great benefit to be in our family. Our pupils, transition with ease, with confidence. We're very fortunate to have these visits. Yes, we're following the COVID guidelines strictly with the social distancing and the mask, but still that online collaboration between the staff members, the transition and the graduation helps with these transitions. And yes, we have a great majority of them going up, but we're very also proud to prepare children for any pathway they take. Being an international school, some parents might transition to other countries. Our pupils, wherever they go, have transitioned with confidence, social emotional readiness, and academic readiness as well. And we've received high praise in that area.
Thank you, Jacqueline. I wonder who would be most qualified or most interested to talk about this, the pastoral and the well-being piece.
Let me get Dr. Lister back, and I'm sure he's excited to talk about that. Thank you, Ruth.
Hi. It's like musical chairs.
You and I have talked about the importance of the pastoral side of the school before. I mean, to me, particularly having come from a housemaster background, unless you get the child's pastoral life, their emotional life settled, they're not going to learn properly anyway. So that's something that we take terribly seriously here at the school. Every child will have a tutor who, yes, they oversee the academic side of the child, but also, if a child's just lost a girlfriend or boyfriend, that can have an enormous impact on a teenager, and a tutor will help them through that episode. It's just as important as helping them with their English or their maths. So go ahead.
I was just going to sharing. I mean, something I personally observed with my daughter, and my daughter, and you know, just to have this tutor system and the house system, and to have someone, in fact, more than several teachers, taking a real interest in an individual student's well-being. And well-being does include academics, but as you say, the academic piece doesn't fall into place until, because for a teenager, the academics are not a priority. Other things come first, the friendship groups, and just to be in a safe environment where a teenager knows that someone is really, really interested in their entire well-being made such a difference.
Ruth, I agree with that 150%. And that is what I've tried to do with all my working life in Malvern. I think at the heart of a Malvern education is ideally the relationship that the child has with the teacher. And if the teacher is able to respect the pupil in the same way as the pupil should respect the teacher, then real learning can take place.
Yes, I've heard you say that before many times, and I think that's really worth repeating, where the teacher respects the student in the same way as the student is and it's a mutual respect. That's important.
Yeah.
Shall we move on a little bit and talk about the international college? You're building opportunities for students to spend a term in the UK. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, we're putting the final touches to this, but we're trying to work out a scheme whereby pupils from Malvern schools, including Malvern Hong Kong, can spend up to a term in Malvern UK. Probably year 9, this is what we're looking at, but there may be opportunities for different age groups of children as well, and dare I say, for some staff as well. They will be exchanging. So to come and experience the Malvern UK site and mix with the pupils in Malvern UK, I think will be tremendously helpful. As I say, that is something we're just putting the final touches to.
So watch this space.
Indeed.
We are nearing the end of our time. I know that you could talk for hours and hours. This will be available for replay. If anyone has some last minute questions, then please go ahead, and we will put the questions to Dr. Lister and Jacqueline McNalty afterwards, if we can't do that live. Robert, maybe could you just explain, I'm trying to find the right words to ask this question, but you talk about the Malvern DNA. How does that translate to the individual Malvern student? Maybe not something that you're looking for in a student, but what qualities and what behaviours do you see in Malvern students because of the Malvern DNA, if that makes sense?
I mean, this would require a 10-minute response, but I'll try and put it down in about a minute. Some years ago, Anthony Clark, who used to be the head at Malvern, he and I sat down trying to think about what are the qualities we would like our children to have when they leave the school. And we thought we'd be able to do this in a very short period of time, maybe discuss it over a couple of beers. It actually took 6-9 months, over a year, to come up with several qualities which we try to inculcate in the children here. Qualities like resilience, qualities like curiosity, like risk-taking, educated risk-taking. So Malvern schools have these qualities, and they become part of our formal and informal structure. I mean, they have lessons on it, assemblies on it, but it's also the way in which we do things, and the children pick up on these qualities, and they become part of who they are. And it works.
Can you give us just a couple of quick examples? You know, how have you seen a student demonstrate resilience, for example, or any other
an example? Just before the end, just at the end of last term, we had an online music recital, and there were 2 children. I hope they're not listening right now. They did a duo, 2 pianos, boy and a girl, and bless him, the young man who was playing the piano got it wrong repeatedly, and he kept having to restart. This was live online with a lot of parents. He was upset, but he and I had a conversation afterwards. What came out of that? The need to be resilient, to demonstrate sticking power, the ability to keep going even when things get tough. And what lesson? He should have practiced more. Which he admitted to me. But it's inculcating things like that through practical experiences to build up resilience. And I think that's so important for children today. They need to learn how to fail. and how to learn from their failures. That was one quick example.
And I'm sure you have many more. And we as parents need to allow our children to fail and to allow them to pick themselves up and recover. What are the Malvern qualities? Can you just recap for us?
Oh, I'm going to, if I can remember them. I think the resilience is the one I always like to talk about first, because I think it's so important. So resilience, curiosity. I've gone completely blank. I'm looking to my colleagues here. Ambition. Risk-taking, terribly important. Something I particularly found in Hong Kong, where making a gross generalization, children have been less willing to take risks than perhaps their UK counterparts. Yeah. Whether that means starting up a new musical instrument or a new sport. Kindness, of course, I should not forget kindness. Kindness is tremendously important. To have integrity, to be humble, and to be self-aware, and finally open-mindedness. These are the qualities. You can find them on our website. I should have known them by heart. I've shown myself up just then, but they are integral to what a Malvern education is all about.
Yeah. So if parents are listening and they're interested in having their children to pick up those qualities and to find out more about Malvern College Hong Kong or Malvern College Preschool, you guys having some virtual open days or physical open days?
I think we've got a number of virtual open days. We would like to go physical, but we haven't got the okay yet. But soon we'll have real ones, and they're online. Details online.
And we will put the links in below. And so that just remains for me to say thank you so much for giving up your time. I know it's late and you're in school, so thank you for doing this. Thank you to Robin and to Jacqueline.
Thank you, Ruth.
Thank you to everybody who has listened live, and if you're listening on catch up, it's not too late to ask any question. If you missed the live broadcast, we will put those questions to Robin and to Jacqueline. So thank you and good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone. Cheerio.
Good night.